my opening remarks for tonight. I want to start out by urging everyone to just slow down a little bit. Just slow down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Breathe out. Take another deep breath. Breathe out. I'm giving you my opening remarks tonight at a time when there is an increasing amount of chaos in the world. As you all are probably aware, there was a bank failure that happened on Friday, and there have been a couple more bank failures that have taken place. People are worried about financial turmoil. But in addition to that, there is a war going on in Ukraine. U.S. leaders are escalating their hostility to China and Russia. The Korean Peninsula is on edge. There's a lot to be uneasy about. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen within the next 24 hours, within the next 48 hours, within the next 72 hours. We don't have the power of mystical divination. We don't have the ability to simply look into the future and get a clear vision of what is going to take place. However, one thing that we do have is a scientific understanding of the objective laws of history. That we do have. And it is with this scientific understanding that I have been preparing you all for the crisis. I have been preparing you all for the storm that is coming. And I have been doing my best, scrambling to try and get things together as we prepare for the storm ahead. That's what I've been trying to do. And I've been trying to be optimistic, and I am optimistic. And I've been trying to be cheerful and hopeful, and I have been cheerful and hopeful. And I've tried to focus on the good, and I've tried to not react and overreact to the negative. I've tried not to get dragged down in the mud by those who are already there. Tried not to fall into the trap of thinking there's nothing I can do, nothing you can do. All we got to do is just sit back and wait for the big collapse, wait for it all to fall. That's all we can do. I've tried my hardest and done my best to make sure that our community has some nudging to not fall into that pessimistic nonsense. It's so widespread in our society at this time. I've done my best to try and give us all the oomph to keep on going. I've always hoped people would tune in and listen to these broadcasts and come out of them wanting to do something, coming out of them with a new level of peace and optimism and the belief that we can actually move ahead. We can take history into our own hands. We can do something about the insanity that's unfolding before us all right before our eyes. I have done my hardest, done my darndest to try and use these broadcasts for good, to try and do my best to just nudge people forward. Nudge people forward on the right path as we face dark times, as the dark clouds assemble and we start to hear the rumbling thunder. The rumbling thunder. You start to hear that rumbling thunder, and I'm calming the crowds, explaining where to prepare, trying to point the way towards shelter, telling people not to panic, and reminding them that the storm will pass and the sun will come back and we will find a way out of the darkness. That's what I've been on these streams trying to do. And as I do that on these streams, there are some forces who just can't stand it. It irks them. It grinds their gears. It irritates them. How dare you spread light, Caleb? How dare you tell people there's hope? How dare you? How dare you interfere with my cherished, hopeless, dark pessimism? How dare you try to make me feel like there's some hope in this madness? How dare you? How dare you rip me out of the protection and lack of responsibility that I find in being dark, pessimistic, and hopeless? How dare you tell me there's something that I can do that will make a difference? I just want to be dark. I just want to sit in my dark living room and turn on the dark Netflix movie and watch the dark, pessimistic plot play out. Watch the girl kill herself. Watch the father weep and cry. I just want to sit in the darkness of my living room and watch this horror movie called reality continue to play out. And you, Caleb, are on there every night trying to tell me that there's something I can do about it. And you're on there trying to tell me that the plot of the movie is not preordained. You're on there telling me that I'm not just a passive observer, that I'm a character in the movie, and that there's something I can do. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Maybe it's Greta Thunberg. How dare you? How dare you? That's me. That's Caleb. And I keep doing it. And I keep annoying them. And I keep nudging away and poking and harassing the dark side of your mind and reminding you that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that something good is going to happen. That's me. That's me. Perhaps my mind has been infected with some kind of drug, and perhaps I'm just not capable of truly digesting how dire the circumstances are, or how nasty and hateful and cruel and ruthless people have been. That's me. And I just keep coming back on here with a smile on my face, telling all of you how much I love you, telling all of you how much I wish you the best, telling you all how much I want the pain and the suffering and the hopelessness and the bitterness that is flowing through your bodies to vanish, and how much I want you to be empowered, how much I want you to wake up every morning with the belief that there is a future, there is light at the end of the tunnel, there is a rainbow with a pot of gold at the end of it. That's just who I am. That's just what I do. That is just what I do. And it's my ability to do that that has kept me here. It's kept me here. It is March 13th, 2023. And I'm on here talking to all of you as banks fail, as the danger of a new world war hangs over our horizon, as the danger of an all-out police state hangs over us. I'm sitting here talking to all of you. I'm on here talking to all of you. And I'm explaining to you all that there's going to be a great conference coming up. We're going to have Scott Ritter. We're going to have Garland Nixon. We're going to have Nick Brana. We're going to have Jyoti Brar from the United Kingdom. Going to have a lot of other great guests. I'm on here. And I'm on here just reminding all of you that amid the thunder and the lightning and the storm clouds, we're doing something good here. We're doing something good here. We're offering a good message. And that as much as rival forces may be able to out-whiz-bang us, make sexier videos, make flashier videos, get more of a boost from the establishment, that it's like the tortoise and the hare. Because slow and steady wins the race. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And we just keep chugging along and chugging along and chugging along and chugging along. And learning from our mistakes and learning from our mistakes and learning from our mistakes, and casting off bad people and finding better people and finding good people and getting people to do their best and to work their hardest. And we just keep chugging along and chugging along and chugging along and chugging along. And we're not speeding and we're not taking shortcuts. We're not dashing forward. We're just chugging along and chugging along, and we have a win here, and we have a setback here, and we have a win here, and we have a setback here, and we build a relationship here, and we improve our friendship here, and we keep chugging along, and we keep chugging along, we keep chugging along, but we know the storm is coming. We know the storm is coming. I've been warning you all that the storm is coming. And so we keep chugging along and chugging along and chugging along as we wait with the knowledge the storm is indeed coming. We're here and we're solidly intact. And they have shot us with every bullet they can imagine. They have pointed their handgun at us and they've gone kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And we're still not dead. And so they've walked over our body and they've pointed the gun again. Kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And we're still not dead. They crouch down and they point the gun at our head and they go kaboom, 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 and we're still not dead. And they have pumped us full of so many. They have shot us with every possible bullet that they have. We're still here. Still on here smiling. I'm still on here saying hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Still on here saying we need a government of action to fight for working families. I'm still on here saying out of the movement to the masses, out of the movement to the masses. I'm still on here explaining that the problem with capitalism is not that it creates endless growth, but precisely that it is incapable of allowing endless growth. That under capitalism, abundance creates poverty. That under capitalism, self-driving cars would be a nightmare when it should be nothing but a great technological leap forward. I'm on here explaining the coal miner's riddle. I'm on here explaining the problem of overproduction and the tendency of the rate of profits to fall. I'm on here explaining why it is that Russia and China keep rising while the West continues to spiral and deteriorate into greater chaos. I'm explaining all of this. I'm explaining all of it. And people are listening to it. And the message resonates because it's true. And I didn't invent it. I didn't discover this stuff. This stuff is old. This is old stuff. Marx didn't even discover this. This stuff goes back to Saint Simon, Henry Saint Simon. This stuff goes back to Robert Owen. The problem of poverty created by abundance, poverty amidst plenty, the problem of jobs being displaced by technology, the problem of eliminating human labor from the assembly line when it is only human labor that creates value. The capitalist can't exploit a machine. He can only exploit human labor. I'm on here explaining these age-old problems with capitalism. Only human labor creates value. Machines don't create value. Human labor creates all wealth. That's what I'm on here talking about. And when we have a society where profits are in command, the more technology advances, the poorer people get. And when you have a great leap in technology, you have a prolonged crisis of overproduction. This is all the stuff I talk about. It's all the stuff I talk about. I wrote a whole book because there are so many concepts we've dug so deeply into in the live streams into. I decided I had to write this book. Where is America going? Marxism, MAGA, and the Coming Revolution. Chapter 1 is all about the economic crisis. It's all about overproduction. It's all about the tendency of the falling rate of profits. It's all about finance capital, the rule of the world by big banks. Chapter 2, I talk about Bonapartism and how when you have an economic crisis, it leads to a political crisis because the capitalists begin to fight and squabble among themselves and battle among each other. They all want the government to stabilize the economy, but they all want to do it at the expense of the other capitalists. It's a struggle to seize control of the state, utilize the state to stabilize the economy. And now there's one particular faction in the United States, the Anglo-American establishment, the Eastern establishment, the old money entrenched oligarchy, the richest of the rich, the ultra-rich in the United States, who more or less believe in Malthusianism and believe that the way to resolve this capitalist crisis is to forcibly degrow and grind the world into poverty, reduce the population, reduce consumption, reduce living standards. That the big oil monopolists and the Silicon Valley fascists, they have determined that the way to stabilize the crisis is grinding the world into poverty so that they can stay at the top, making the world poorer and poorer and poorer to make sure that they stay at the top. This is the division within the ruling class between the ultra-rich and their scheme for having a controlled demolition of the human race, of reducing living standards, grinding the world deeper into poverty, and the rest of humanity. The lower level capitalists, they don't want to have their profits reduced. They don't want to be put out of business. The working class wants higher wages and a better living condition and a better life for their children than they had. The people of the world want to rise up from poverty. Africa wants to lift itself up with electrification, with running water, with education. Asia, Africa, Latin America, they all want this. The socialist countries of the world are the ones leading this. It's China, the Belt and Road Initiative, that is leading these kinds of efforts. It's the Bolivarian countries of Latin America. They're the ones doing it. And that now, this division in the world between the degrowth faction, the monopolists that want degrowth, that want to grind the world into poverty to save the capitalist system, and the rest of humanity that wants to continue marching forward and lifting its head up and raising out of poverty and growing and advancing technology and inventing things. This division is what we are seeing. And that things don't make any sense right now. Because the left, if you want to call it that, has deteriorated into a group of people that are merely the foot soldiers of the degrowth faction. Their job is to help Rockefeller and DuPont and Carnegie and Bill Gates and Carlos Slim and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos kick around the lower level capitalists who won't go along with their degrowth scheme to save the capitalist system. That's what their plan is. And to be a leftist now means that you are a foot soldier of Silicon Valley. You're a foot soldier of the Walton family of Walmart and foot soldier of the Kroc family that owns McDonald's, a foot soldier of the ultra monopolies to keep society in line with their overall plan of stabilization to save the economy. And that increasingly, in the Western capitalist countries, there has been a layer of people that, for whatever reason, don't want to go along with this. And they're confused, and they don't understand why. Some of them have illiberal ideas. They're Christians or Muslims or Jews. They have orthodox ideas. They have practices that don't line up with what the liberal order wants. And some of them are just working class people who want to live their lives and want a better life for their kids, and they haven't bought into the idea that humans are a cancer on Mother Earth. And some of them are part of the lower levels of capital. They're small business owners. They're members of even the capitalist class that are not part of the club. And there's increasingly a growing number of people that have questions about vaccines, that have questions about all kinds of things. They have questions about all kinds of things. They have questions about climate change. They've got questions about vaccines. They've got questions about the wars and why we're supposed to hate Russia and why we're supposed to hate China. They've got questions about the censorship on social media and why they shouldn't be able to say what they want to say. They got questions. Some of them are white. Some of them are black. Some of them are Latino. Some of them are Asian. Some of them are Arab Americans. Different views, different ideologies, but they just don't go along with the new party line. And those people are growing in number every day. And there are various attempts to corral these people, to corral them back into compromising and working with the liberal order. But none of these schemes really work that well. And there's various attempts to try and channel them one way or channel them another way. But they don't really seem to seem to work. Because what's driving these dissident sentiments on the part of the population is not Russian disinformation. It's not right-wing propaganda. What's driving these dissident sentiments, these conspiracy theories, is economic reality. It's the fact that people are seeing. They're seeing with their own eyes. And the country is falling apart. Everything is broken. The trains are derailing. The water isn't getting purified and clean. The schools are a joke. Everything is falling apart. Everything is falling apart in the country. That is what is driving people to dissent. That's what's driving people to look for answers. That's what's driving it. You're not going to make it go away by outlawing conspiracy theories, outlawing questioning of the status quo, banning people from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and whatever. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to outlaw people questioning things because people are questioning things. Thank you, darling. People are questioning things. People are questioning things because of the fact that things are not getting better in the country. Things are not improving in the country. Things are not getting better in the United States. The situation is getting worse and worse and worse. And that is driving people to ask more and more questions about why. That is driving people to say something must be done. That is forcing people who would normally have peace, people who would prefer to go along to get along, people who would prefer to just live their lives, follow the rules, not make anybody mad, not get in trouble. It's forcing people to ask questions. It's forcing people to not be at peace with the system. It's forcing people to increasingly say they don't like the way things are going and they want answers and they want to know what to do about it. And it is in this moment of confusion that we, Center for Political Innovation, CPI, City Building Tendency, that we're doing our work. And as I said, we're just chugging ahead. We're just chugging along. We're making mistakes. We're getting better at what we do. We're getting stuff done. We're building a community. We're building connections here. We're establishing this center here and meeting people here and engaging here and publishing a book here and having a conference here and making an online documentary here. And we're just trying one bit at a time to chug along amid all of this turmoil, amid all of this instability, knowing that this instability will get worse, knowing that there is a storm on the horizon, knowing that we're heading towards a crisis. We're chugging along. We're chugging along. We're chugging along, and we're just doing the best we can. And the reason that we're able to keep chugging along, and the reason that I can come on here night after night with a smile on my face, is because Socialism is my horizon. If you're on a boat and you're feeling seasick, the reason that you're feeling seasick is because everything around you is moving. Everything around you is moving. And if you're feeling seasick, the advice they give you when you get on a boat and you're feeling seasick because everything around you is moving is to look to the horizon. Because the horizon is the one thing that's not moving. It's still. It's still. The horizon remains still. Socialism is my horizon. The understanding that human beings possess a certain level of creative power that is constantly driving them to advance. We've gone from hunter-gatherer civilization to slavery to feudalism to capitalism. And eventually we will reach socialism, and socialism will eventually give way to communism. It is my understanding that human beings are tool makers, the only species that has the ability to force the environment to serve them and has been constantly perfecting the methods of making the environment serve them. It's gone from hunting and gathering to growing crops and developing fuel sources and the Bronze Age and electricity and burning fossil fuels and nuclear power. And this is humanity. Humanity is capable of doing things no other species is capable of doing. Ants have been making their ant farms the same way for millions of years. And I love beavers. They're very cute. They got their teeth. They're adorable little critters, those beavers. But they've been making their beaver dams the same way for millions of years. But we human beings are constantly reinventing ourselves, reinventing the way we interact with our environment, reinventing the experience of what it means to be a human being, expanding our life expectancy, expanding our population, growing. There's a creative power in human beings that is something that other creatures just don't have. Other species do not have what human beings have. We have the ability to constantly reinvent ourselves, to constantly reach a higher plane. And for the past 5,000 years, we haven't stopped. We haven't stopped. We've just continued this amazing experiment called humanity. However, we have flaws. We're not perfect. I'm going to tell you all a story. Now, it's a story I think many of you have probably heard before, but it's a story that you haven't heard this way. Haven't heard it this way. And I'm going to tell this story, and you know how it ends. You know how it ends. You know the story probably very well. If you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, you probably know this story very well, but you haven't heard it the way I'm about to tell it. I'm going to tell it this way. Once upon a time, in a galaxy pretty close by, God decided to create human beings. God had already made the heavens and the earth. God had already made the fishes of the sea and the animals of the land. But God decided, I'm gonna do something different here with human beings. I'm gonna make a creature that is unlike any creature I've ever made before. I am going to create a creature that is in my own image. In my own image. Now, what does that mean? It means I'm going to create a creature that, just like I do, has a spark of creative power. It won't be like a beaver. It won't be like an ant. I'm going to make a creature that has creative power, that has the ability to force the environment to serve it, to constantly be reinventing the way it interacts with nature. I am going to create a creature with this godlike ability to create, with a brain, with a soul. I'm going to create a special kind of creature. But this power that human beings have is very dangerous. So I'm going to guide them very carefully and how they can use it. And I'm going to very carefully tell them that as they mature, I'm going to guide them in learning how to harness their creative power. I'm going to guide them. They're not going to be allowed to just start creating on their own. I'm not going to hand a gun to a baby. You know, I'm not going to do that. Right? I'm going to gradually work them up to the point that they'll be able to use their creative power for good. For good. I'm going to work them up to the point that they know what creativity is about, they know what creative power is about, and that they'll use it explicitly for good. And I'm going to warn them. I'm going to warn them not to stray from the path that I've chosen for them. Don't just go create things on your own. Don't just go discovering things on your own. We have to walk this road together. God said to man, we have to walk this road together. When you're ready, I will reveal certain things to you. When you have matured and gotten to the point that you understand it, I will give you certain powers. But you have to walk this road together. We have to walk this road together. You and me, we have to walk on this road together. And there are certain things you're not ready for. And there are certain fruits that it is not time for you to bite into. And the time will come for you to bite into those fruits, but we're not there yet. There will come a time for you to overturn certain leaves. There will come a time for you to know certain things, but you're not there yet. And I'm going to raise you up. I'm going to raise you up to use this creative power, this spark of creativity, this ability to exist in the image of God. I'm going to raise you up so that you use it in a pure way, untainted by the animalism that is within you, because you're not God. You are, to some degree or other, an animal, but you have this special spark. You have this special ability. And so God is saying, I will help you understand what it means to be godlike. I will help you understand what it means to be creative. I will help you to understand how to use your creative power, how to use your ability of imagination. And I will help you to gradually use it in a rational way. But human beings didn't listen. We had this creative power. We had this desire to have more. We had this desire to find out hidden truths, to know how to interact with the environment. We had it. And it was too much for us. We couldn't contain our creative power. We couldn't contain our creativity. We couldn't contain our desire to have knowledge of good and evil. And we couldn't learn to use our human abilities and our unique human capacity in lockstep with how God wanted us to learn it. Instead, we went and we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We asked questions we shouldn't have asked. And we rushed into things and we learned things we were not yet ready to know. And we experienced things we were not yet ready to experience. And this gift that was given to us as human beings, this ability to do things that no other species had ever done before, this ability to reinvent our relationship with nature and change the way we interact with our environment, this uniquely human creative power, this being in the image of God, this spark of godliness, this creative ability that human beings have. It was a gift, but it was a gift that became a curse. And it led to us cutting ourselves off from the very God that gave it to us. We have spent 5,000-6,000 years reinventing our relationship with nature, striving to a higher plane of existence, building bigger towers, advancing human technology, all while we strive to get back to where we once were. We strive to get back to not being at odds and not being separated from the beautiful force of power that created us. And as we've gotten better, we've also become more aware of the pain of not having what we should have, not having that connection with the force, the power that created us. Frankenstein. You ever read Frankenstein? It's a great book, famous book, written by Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley's mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, was a very famous advocate for the rights of women. Mary Shelley was married to an amazing poet called Shelley, the poet Shelley. And Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, the daughter of a great feminist, the wife of an amazing revolutionary poet, she wrote a novel that is considered to be the first science fiction novel in the history of the world. You ever heard of it? It's called Frankenstein. And the novel Frankenstein tells the story of a scientist who goes and does something that has never been done before. He makes a human being. He creates his own human being. He digs up a bunch of body parts, and he digs up a brain, and he digs up an arm, and he sews them all together, and he hooks them up to electricity, and he waits for a big thunderstorm, and he makes a human being all of his own. He makes a man. with this man that he creates. He never provides for it. Doesn't give it a place in the world. Doesn't provide it with anything that it needs. And it becomes a monster that horrifies the world. And so he spends years trying to track down his creation. And the point of the novel is exactly the same point that's being made in the story of the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve. That with our creative power as human beings and with our unique human innovation, if we don't have truth and we don't have goodness and we don't have love, it doesn't mean anything. Dr. Frankenstein is so caught up in the fact that he made a man, he created a person. He forgets that if you bring a life into this world, you have to give it love. You have to give it something. You can't just create. With creation comes responsibility. Of course, Mary Shelley's novel was an analogy for capitalism. Out of feudalism had come capitalism, and human beings were harnessing electricity, lightning, the power of electricity, and human beings were inventing new things, but they were losing their souls. They lost their souls. They were working children to death in sweatshops. They were colonizing the native people of the Americas and Africa and Asia and brutally treating people. They were so caught up in look how creative we are. Look how we can build. Look how we can invent. We're so great. We're so amazing. We can invent. They lost track of any moral sense, any sense that they had an obligation to their fellow human beings. They had an obligation to care for people. They had an obligation to make sure people were provided for. That in their enthusiasm with human progress, they became increasingly cold and indifferent to the suffering of others. And they increasingly became cut off from the love and the beauty that created them and gave them that very creative power to begin with. She's pointing to the tragedy of the human race. What Mary Shelley is pointing to has come back with a vengeance. Because we've gotten better at inventing things than ever. They look at ChatGPT. It can do anything. Practically anything. 3D printers, self-driving cars. There's so many examples I could give. Machines, human beings, our creative power is everywhere. The creative power of human beings is on full display before the world. But that creative power is without love. That creative power is without guidance. That creative power is without any central vision or any feeling of obligation to other human beings. It's a cold creativeness. It's an unloved creativeness. It's a hateful and lost creativeness. That's where we are as human beings. You want an example of this? Check out the logo of the Apple Corporation. When I was in the Middle East, I was hanging out with some Muslims. They told me they believe that logo, the apple with the, the bite out of it, they believe that logo is satanic. They believe that Apple is a satanic corporation. It's celebrating the fall of man. That's what it is. However, if you read, there are different theories about the logo. There's actually an even more sinister theory about the logo of the Apple Corporation. And that theory is this. Apparently, Steve Jobs, the great computer technology guy who went ahead and developed Apple, he was a big fan of Alan Turing. Now, if you've ever seen the movie The Imitation Game, it's about Alan Turing. Alan Turing was a very, very disabled but very genius mathematician in Britain during World War II. The British government utilized him to build their decoder machine. And Alan Turing was a computer mathematics genius. He invented a decoding machine, and that decoding machine is considered one of the key breakthroughs that laid the basis for the modern computer revolution. The Alan Turing decoder machine. And that Alan Turing decoder machine he invented, laid the basis for what Apple and Microsoft and many corporations later did. Steve Jobs of Apple spent a lot of time reading Alan Turing's work. We know this. But Alan Turing committed suicide. Alan Turing was gay. It was illegal to be gay in Britain. And it was illegal to be gay. And so Alan Turing was caught engaging in homosexual behavior, was arrested for it. And he was told he had the choice of either going to prison or taking drugs that would cut off his sex drive. And so he began taking the drugs that cut off his sex drive. He felt a huge amount of shame, being humiliated before the world for being gay. He also felt very degraded having to take these pills that would cut off his sex drive. So Alan Turing committed suicide. And the way that Alan Turing committed suicide was he dipped an apple into cyanide, poisonous chemical, and took a bite out of it. And it is widely believed that the logo of the Apple Corporation is some bizarre, demented joke about the suicide of Alan Turing. Look it up. I did not think of this. This is widely believed on the internet by people that have studied the life of Steve Jobs. There are many people that believe that the logo of the Apple Corporation is some kind of weird, demented inside joke about how Alan Turing committed suicide. That's gross. That's weird. And it's uncomfortable. Why in the world would you make that the logo of your computer company? There's a kind of indifference to the suffering that Alan Turing went through, kind of an indifference to the humiliation and the tragic end of such a great mathematician. The whole thing has a weird, it's the kind of thing you look at and you're like, something's off about this. They're like, so the guy who developed a lot of the computer technology you use killed himself with an apple, so the logo is an apple. Ha. Yeah, we're all laughing here, Steve. I don't think we think it's funny. We don't get the joke here. Can you explain to us why that's funny? We're not laughing here, Steve. We're not laughing. We're not laughing, Steve. I mean, we don't really find this to be a humorous thing. It's not funny. It's kind of gross, kind of sad, kind of ugh. It's just the kind of thing. It's like, what kind of person would do that? That kind of tells you about the kind of people that are running the world we live in. It's the kind of people that maybe they've tapped into that creative power of human beings. Maybe they're really good at math and science, computers, but they've completely cut themselves off from God. They've completely cut themselves off from morality. They've completely cut themselves off from love. They've completely cut themselves off from any feelings of empathy for their fellow human beings. Go and read about how many sociopaths and psychopaths there are on Wall Street. Stacey Abrams, a Democrat. Paul Ryan, a Republican. Both of them say that Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged was a great source of inspiration in their life. Ayn Rand, in her book Atlas Shrugged, there's a whole speech about how money is the source of all good. Money is the source of all good, about how people should be completely indifferent to other people, completely altruistic, completely rejecting any form of altruism. This is evil stuff. When the world is ruled by the law of the jungle, when there is no rules other than might is right and the strongest survive, the kind of people who get to the top are the most ruthless, the most cruel, the most indifferent to others. Those are the kind of people that rise to the top in a world where there is no order, in a world where there is utter chaos, in a world where there is no right and wrong. The kind of people who rise to the top in that kind of setting are the most dangerous. The most dangerous people rise to the top. And that's the world we live in. We live in a world where we're increasingly being told that right and wrong doesn't exist. We're increasingly being told that morality is a scam and a hustle. We're increasingly being told, don't be a sucker. Don't care about other people. Don't have compassion. Don't have kindness. Don't help your fellow human beings. Don't think there's a better world coming. Don't think that there's something better coming. Don't believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Just wallow in pessimism. Just become hopeless. Just fry your brain on psychedelics if you're feeling bad about it. Just wallow in hopelessness. That's what our leaders are offering us. Just wallow in pessimism and hopelessness. Just be degrown to save the planet, to bring the world back into balance, to reduce consumption. That's what they're offering us. That's what they're offering us. And that's why we just keep chugging along and chugging along and chugging along. And they shoot at us and they shoot at us and they attack us and they attack us. And we just keep chugging along and we just keep chugging along and we keep growing and we keep doing what we're doing. And I keep coming back on here with a smile on my face. Why? Because they need us. The world needs us. The world increasingly needs what the Center for Political Innovation has to offer. It completely needs the city building tendency. It needs what we have to offer. And we just keep chugging along and chugging along and chugging along because we're filling a void. There's so many people that are longing for what it is that we do here. There's so many people who wish they could find something like what we do here, what we do at our conferences, what we do in our organization. There's so many people that are just wishing there could be something to live for. There could be something to believe in. There could be some solid ground to stand on. So many people are longing for this. So many people are longing for what we have, and that's why we just keep chugging along and just keep chugging along, and people come and people join and people want what we have, and no one else is offering it. You'd think it'd be common sense, but it ain't. I've referenced many times a news item that happened in early February. It was all over conservative right-wing media. Ben Shapiro talked about it. Tucker Carlson talked about it. But it got very little play in mainstream media. No one paid attention. And that was this. A small town called Asbury, Kentucky. There was a Christian revival service, a prayer service. It still hasn't ended. It's still going, last I checked. But the Asbury revival, this was a Christian prayer revival in a small town in Kentucky, and it just kept going. It's still going. It's still happening. They haven't stopped. They're still there in the auditorium of this small Christian college in this little town in Kentucky, and they're still praying. One weekend, there were 50,000 people there. 50,000 people from across the Midwest and the Rust Belt and Appalachia. 50,000 people piled in there. It's still going. Why? These are 19-year-olds. These are 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. And they're there 24/7. The music is going. The praying is happening. The crying is happening. The tears are flowing. And the music is playing. What is going on? What is going on? Why is this happening? I'll tell you why it's happening. It's happening because everything in the country is falling apart. It's happening because the trains derailed, been going off the tracks and leaking deadly chemicals. It's happening because they don't have good paying jobs. It's happening because the roads are falling apart. It's happening because we're transitioning into a low-wage police state. And there's so many people who are lost and so many people who are hopeless. They're gathering in this auditorium. They're saying, God, I'm thinking about the relatives in my family who've died from opioids. Thinking about my cousin who's in jail. God, I'm thinking about how anxious I am and worried I am about paying off my student debt. God, I'm worried that I'll never be able to have a family. I'll never be able to get married and have kids. God, I'm worried. I'm worried about my community. I'm worried about my relative who's in the military. I'm worried they're going to send him over to Afghanistan again or some African country or to Ukraine to get shot. They're saying, God, everything in this country is falling apart and we don't know what to believe. They lied to us about January 6th. And they lied to us about the vaccine. They lied to us about Russia. They lie and they just keep lying to us. We don't know what to believe anymore. And we're afraid. And God, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Does someone hear me? I'm crying out in pain because I want to know that someone's listening. Does anyone hear me? Well, God hears them. But we also hear them. We hear you. We, the Center for Political Innovation, we hear you. We hear your cries. You are not forgotten. And the government of this country may have left you behind. And the Wall Street monopolists may have left you behind. And the rich and the powerful may have left you behind. But we hear you and we have an answer. Because in this dying wreck of an empire, amid all the hopelessness and decay and evil all around us, there is an explosion coming. The working people of this country will rise like a mighty storm, like a hurricane, a force so swift and explosive that no force can hold it back. And they will assert the desire of humanity to rise and stand. And they will join arm in arm with Russia and China and Venezuela and Iran. And they will demand the building of high-speed railway. They will demand the right to an education, the right to jobs, the right to health care, and the right to a good life. They will rise like a mighty storm, and no force will be capable of holding them back. And they will beat their swords into plowshares. and they will embrace their fellow man as brothers, and they will reject the forces of greed and evil that have gripped power in the Western world and are leading us off the cliff. And humanity, with its creative power, with its unique ability to reinvent the way it interacts with its environment, humanity will not be restrained. And the creative, independent, honest power of human beings will reconnect with the spiritual truths and the humanity and the compassion and the love that is within all of us. And the Alpha and the Omega, the last and the first, the beginning and the end will reunify. And there will be a restoration in this land. And it won't just be some magical thing that comes from heaven. It won't be an angel with a flaming sword. It won't be a meteorite from outer space. It will come because material forces will enable it to come. It will come because humanity demands it. It will come because there is no alternative. It will come because human beings cannot be contained. It will come because it will be apparent that we have no other choice. It will come because this is the way the world is moving. And I think it won't look like leftist revolutions have happened before in the past. I'll just tell you that much. You know, in the past, during the 19th and 20th century, leftist revolutions often had an explosive libidinal character. In a feudal society, everyone's very restrained. Everyone knows their place. The serf has one place. He can't even look a noble in the eye. There's all kinds of, ritual and hierarchy, and people are very constrained and restrained. That's how feudal society is. When you're overthrowing feudalism, the way you generally create the energy to overthrow feudalism is you lift those restraints. That's what you do, right? The French Revolution was a big explosion of Saxon violence, right? They went to the peasantry and they said, cast off your chains. And the rage of the peasants exploded. The sexual desires of people exploded. Marquis de Sade. And the way that revolutions happened in the 19th and 20th century was that social constraints and restrictions on people were lifted. And that people who were angry, their rage, their desire for vengeance was unleashed. People that had been restrained and lived very controlled, regulated lives suddenly were given permission to let their impulses be released. And that's how revolutions tended to happen in the 20th and 19th and 20th century, mainly when feudalism was being overthrown and replaced by capitalism. The way to overthrow feudalism involves the lifting of restraints, right? And that's the way that revolutions happen. That's the way the French Revolution happened. That's the way the 1848 wave of revolutions happened. That's the way the revolutions, the Cultural Revolution in China was a lot like that. That's generally how revolutions have happened in the 19th and 20th century. But what we saw over the course of the Cold War was that the ruling class hijacked this mechanism. No longer do communists go around lifting restraints on people, giving people permission to unleash their rage, stirring up chaos to destroy traditional feudal societies. Communists don't do that no more. Now the Western capitalists do it. Now Facebook does it. Now Twitter does it. Now George Soros does it. Now this is a mechanism. The impulse to revolt is now a mechanism used by the Western power structure to get its way and stir up chaos and instability around the world. They don't like Russia. What they do is they get a bunch of bots and trolls and Twitter and all of that and tell people in Russia, unleash your rage. Are you mad about this? Are you mad about that? Rah, rah. And then they stir up instability and chaos. That's how That's how the Western capitalists dominate the world. Look what they did to Libya. Libya was a country, a socialist country that was developing. There were problems there, and they stirred up instability and chaos, and now Libya is bombed into shreds, right? They did a similar thing in Syria, and this is how they operate. The emotions and aesthetic of revolution that were the emotions and aesthetics of revolution in the 20th century have now been hijacked by Western capitalism. And that is why things have gotten so confusing, right? And that's why it's so weird. We're seeing our leaders, the leaders of the Western capitalist imperialist system, they're the ones going all around talking about systemic racism and talking about the rights of women and talking about LGBT stuff. There's a reason for this. The reason for this is that the impulse release, the drive to release one's impulses, the lust for vengeance, the lust to tear it down, these kind of libidinal teenage feelings, they've largely become the property of the ruling class. And that's just a reality of the situation. It's not right or wrong, right? I mean, people have a right to be angry when they're oppressed. People have a right to be who they are and not be restrained. I'm not saying that these feelings are always bad or can't serve a good purpose. You know, being a rebel when you're a teenager is very, very important. It serves a function. And that's not the point. The point isn't to moralize this or make this good or bad. The point is that we are in a time where the libidinal drive to tear it down, burn it down, and release one's impulses no longer plays a revolutionary role. And in fact, the forces that have basically cornered the market on it are the most sinister counter-revolutionary forces. That just forces us to go back to the drawing board and say, what can we offer? What can we offer? We can offer stability. We can offer stability. That's what we can offer. We can offer the way out. That was actually the name of the Communist Party. I have it right here. The Communist Party USA, 1940. They ran a presidential campaign. The country was having a Great Depression. It was getting ready for World War II. What did they call the book? What was Earl Browder's campaign slogan? The Way Out. The way out. It's basically capitalism is moving toward a new world war. Capitalism is causing instability and chaos. We offer the way out. I think William Z. Foster first said the revolutionary way out of the crisis. And then later they just kind of made it concise and they made it the way out. We offer the way out. The way out of the danger of war, the way out of economic instability and chaos, the way out of suffering and hopelessness. We offer the way out. With our program, our 4-point program, and with the kind of economic development that we're seeing rising in Eurasia, there is clearly a way out. We offer that way out. We offer that way out. And we have to start repositioning leftism to not be a call for chaos, not be a call for instability, not be a call for rebellion, but rather a very well put together, calculated, clear message and disciplined movement offering the road to order, the way out of the chaos, the way out of the nightmare that's being created all around us. We have to offer the road to stability, the road to things getting done. That's what we offer. That's what we offer. The way out. The way out of the chaos. that leads me to a point that I want to make here that, it's not an easy point to make. It's not an easy point to make. And the reason it's not an easy point to make is because it's not an easy thing to learn. I think it's hard for young men. I think women get this better than men. Women are better than men in so many ways. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Women are better at getting along with other people. Women are much more sensitive to other people's needs. Women know how to maintain groups better than men do. We men, we want to get on here and talk about all the books we've read. We want to wave our dicks around and show everyone how smart we are. And, women know how to care for people. Women know how to listen to other people. Women know how to hold a group together. Women know when there's a job that needs to be done, how to get it done. And we men, we don't always have that. Now, some men are better than other men at this, and some women are obviously not as good as other women are, right? I mean, I'm speaking in broad generalizations here. I mean, this is all just because we're socialized differently, right? I mean, men and women are socialized differently. There's different expectations. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you're building an actual organization, women are very, very valuable because women are way better at it than men are. I mean, it's just a fact. Women are way better organizers than men are. They just are. There's no other way to say it. Women are better organizers than men. Men might be more motivated to give speeches and write articles and stuff like that. But women, when it comes to holding an organization together, making sure people feel respected, resolving disputes within an organization, bringing people together, listening. I mean, women just have better social skills than men. Okay. That's my experience. Women are more humble than men. Women are more patient than men. Women are more sensitive than men. Women are more, more observant. They just are, right? A lot of ways women are better than men when it comes to building community, when it comes to building organizations. A lot of us men, we're just stuck. We're having a rivalry with all the other men. We're trying to prove how much we know. We get caught up in this ego thing, this defensive male, I don't know what you want to call it. We get caught up in it. All right. We just do. That's just how it is. We get caught up in these things. And because of that, there's room for us to do better. And we can learn. Right. Women have their struggles too. There's a lot of women who struggle with confidence, for example, and so, I mean, it's not like anyone's better really than anyone else, but when it comes to certain things that are very valuable in building an organization, women are just better than men. They're better organizers than men. I mean, I'm just being honest. Women are better organizers than men. But that brings me to a point that really needs to be made. Because one of the problems with young men and I don't want to say this the wrong way because I've been there and I know what it's about. Right? I almost want to say, oh, men are arrogant or men are too proud. That's not what it is. That is not what it is. It's the opposite. A lot of men feel they have something to prove. A lot of men feel like they're on trial. They feel like they're on trial. They just have to prove that they're good enough. They have to show that they know. They have to show that they're capable. And they're so afraid that if they don't demonstrate to the world that they're worthy, if they don't show to the world how strong they are, that doesn't just mean physical strength. It also means intellectual ability, writing, speaking, intelligence, knowledge. If they don't show to the world that they have value. They don't demonstrate their capability, that they won't be valued. And they're so afraid. They're so afraid. And especially now that it's so hard for men to get jobs. I mean, the job market isn't what it is. And I mean, a lot of men really feel like they just have to show their ability. And that leads them to a place where they don't want to learn. They don't want to listen. They don't want to take guidance. Because if they do that, it's like admitting they need it. It's like admitting that they're not good enough. They feel they're in a place of terror. This fear that they won't be recognized. This fear that the world is going to look at them like they're a loser or a failure, somebody who hasn't done something. This fear that they won't be able to prove what they can accomplish. This fear that they'll be unrecognized, and this fear that people won't see them as having value, and that fear haunts them, and that fear gets in their way. It gets in the way of them having real valuable relationships. It gets in the way of them learning from someone who could teach them something. It gets in the way of them getting the most out of very valuable experiences of being in a group. It's that fear. It's not arrogance. People misread it as arrogance. People misread it as pridefulness. People misread it as boastfulness or self-importance. That's not what it is. It's the opposite. It's that they don't have the love that every person deserves. They don't have the respect that every person deserves. They feel like they're on trial. They feel like they're being watched and tested at all times. They're afraid that if they don't do good enough, they won't be valued. It's not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be at all. It's a painful place to be. I hear them. And I've been in that place. Trust me. I've spent a lot of my life in those kind of circumstances. I got to tell you, if you're in those circumstances, I want to tell you that the best feeling in the world, best feeling in the world is when you can just get to the place in your mind and say, I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to stand out in the crowd. I can be beautiful just by being a part of this. I can be beautiful just by being a part of this. I can be beautiful by learning, not just by teaching. I can be beautiful by standing arm in arm with other people. And it takes courage. It takes such courage to do that because you're already in such a scared place. But when you can just have the real strength to lower your defenses, to let your guard down, and trust, and open your mind, and open your ears, and let your soul connect with other people. And you can realize that we don't want to judge you. We don't want to put you down. We want to help lift you up. We want to help lift you up, brother. But in order for us to help lift you up, you have to open your soul to it. You have to put your guard down, and you have to be willing. You have to be willing to open your arms and open your heart and say, I want to learn. You have to be willing to open your mind. You have to say, help me. Help teach me. Help cultivate me. Help me learn. Help me improve. Help me shine. You have to be willing to trust that other people aren't competing with you, that other people aren't trying to block you or put you down or make you less or denigrate you. You have to be willing to open up. You have to be willing to say, these folks just want to help me, and you have to trust. You have to trust. You have to trust. And if you can do that, if you can find the courage to do what is not easy, the courage to say, maybe I don't know. I don't know. It takes a lot of courage to say you don't know. But to just say, you know what? I don't know the answer. But I want you to teach me the answer. And I want you to teach me the answer so that I can figure out how to give that answer even better than you just gave it to me now. I want you to help me polish myself, improve myself, and shine. I want you to help me. I want you to teach me, and I'm willing to put my guard down. I'm willing to be taught. And I'm willing to hear other people, and I'm willing to challenge myself, and I'm willing to be put into hard situations. I'm willing to trust. I'm willing to get into a car when I don't necessarily know where it's going, figuratively speaking. I'm willing to be led. I'm willing to take the burden of trying to be the king of the castle off my shoulders and just say, I'm in somebody else's castle, but it's a safe place. It's a safe place. I don't have to have a war. I don't have to fight with these people. I don't have to fight them. I don't have to fight them. I can trust them. They want to help me. We want to help them. You can do that. You can get yourself to the place where you can just put your guard down and say, I am ready to learn, and I am ready to lead, and I am ready to make beautiful music in an orchestra where I'm just one instrument. You can do that. It's not easy, and it comes with time, and you can't fake do it. If you can get yourself to the place of saying, this is where I want to be, this is the trust that I want to have. I'm willing to be led. I'm willing to be one instrument in a beautiful orchestra. I'm willing to be part of this, and I don't have to prove myself because I'm not on trial every day. I'm not on trial every day. I don't have to prove myself. People love me just for being here. People love me just for being here and being part of this. People see me as special and important just because I'm here. Just because I've given myself to this, they already see me as valuable. If you can get to that place, you can get there. You're going to be so happy. You're going to be so happy if you can get to that place. It takes courage to get to that place. It also just takes time. It's like sticking your feet in the swimming pool. And at first, it seems like it might be a little too cold, but you get in a little bit further. Pretty soon, your whole body is in the swimming pool and you're swimming around. That's what it's like. I don't expect you to jump in head first, do a cannonball. But you can. You can if you want. Not everyone does it that way. I'm not going to throw you in the pool. I'm not going to pick you up against your will and toss you into the ocean. Not going to do that. Right? That would be illegal. That's a serious crime. You have to get into the swimming pool yourself. If you want to get in 1 foot at a time, inch by inch, I understand, because that's how I did it. That's how I did it. That's how I got into the pool. I didn't jump in. But when I got fully into the pool, it was such a better place to be. It was such a better place to be. I got fully into the pool. I'll tell you when I got fully into the pool. I got fully into the pool when I moved to New York City. When I moved to New York City, I was fully into the pool. My family was back in Ohio. And I'd been in this political group, and I'd been struggling after college. And I got the opportunity to come to New York for a month, and that month has turned into well over a decade. I've been here ever since. When I got to New York, it was hard. First month I was in New York, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't even know what was going to happen. There were times I just couldn't stand it, and I was just so overwhelmed, and this city was so fast-paced, and the political group was full of problems. But I got to this place where I said to myself, this is where I am. This is what I decided to do. This is where I am. I've given myself to this movement. I've given myself to communism. I've given myself to the revolutionary anti-imperialist movement. Despite all the flaws, despite all the frustrating people, despite all the setbacks, this is where I am. And I'm just going to try to get done the best I can do. At that point, a new level of peace came over me, a new level of certainty came over me, a new level of patience with people came over me, a new ability to make connections came over me. I was a better, happier person. Now, things don't change overnight, and it's a process. Nothing changes overnight. There's no dramatic moment. It's not like something happens and boom, whoosh, one day it's different. It's not like that. Not like that at all. But things got better. Things got better when I was able to just recognize that I had to just let my guard down. Just let my guard down and do what I can do and stop trying to prove myself and stop trying to fight a battle every day and stop seeing myself as being on trial every day. When I learned to just submit, when I learned that I could just follow the rules, when I learned that I could just, this is where I'm at. I'm going to try to do the best I can under these circumstances. My life got so much better. My life got so much better when I learned not to be at war with the rest of the world, not to view every circumstance as a trial. It's a place. And I'm telling you, if you want to get the most out of the work that the Center for Political Innovation does, if you want to really be able to work with your comrades, your brothers and sisters, you got to find a way to get closer to that place. Get to a place where you don't feel like you're on trial, where you can trust other people, and you can feel like you are part of something bigger. You can transcend the ego. I saw. When you get to that place, it's a lot better. It's a lot better. It is a lot better if you can get to that place. I'll just tell you that much.